myself. My name is Rilla. I'm the head of primary and, oh, okay, we're supposed to stand here. Again, I'd like to welcome you. This is the first time I think that we have, besides the parent evening, that we do a session specifically for primary. So thank you for coming today for this session. The focus today is going to be on the new timetable structure and what it looks like and sounds like in the primary school. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Marwa. Does anyone already know Marwa? Yes. Yep, I'm sure you do. So Marwa is part of the primary leadership team, and she is the ECKG coordinator, and we work very closely together. She has played also a really important role in creating this timetable for primary school. Of course, you know Dr. Shwani is also with us today, our head of school. Okay, great. So today's session is not going to be very long, but basically we're going to be focusing on why, the why of change. Why did we change? Some examples, and what it looks like and sounds like. And then if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them at the end. Okay, we'll try to finish around 8:30 today. Okay. So starting off with our new mission and thinking about these three words: collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. And we're thinking about the new timetable structure. These three words really represent our goal to always look to the future and ask the question, how can we do things better? By being collaborative, creative, and by also thinking critically. This is our vision, our new vision, which says imagining and designing a better world together. So we like to reach out to our school community to collaborate, to open a space for critical thinking and reflection, but also we see ourselves as innovators, researchers, and designers, always thinking of a way to improve and do things better. This is our definition of learning, and if you read the definition of learning, you will see that this is the kind of learning we want your children, our students, to experience. Learning that is joyful, dynamic, inspiring, transformational, where learners connect purposefully with the world. They don't connect with the world in 40-minute chunks. They connect with the world through learning that is meaningful and connected to the real world. And this is our primary guiding statement. So every year in primary school, we dive in a bit more detail, and we ask ourselves, so what is it that we want to focus on this year that's going to make the primary school a better school, that is going to improve? And if you look at our guiding statement, it's about improving structures and systems. That includes creating a better timetable, that includes having more explicit teaching of literacy, more explicit teaching of math, having better policies in place and structures. Okay. So the why of changing the timetable, it all boils down to one thing, and this one thing is the one thing we talk about all the time. If we're meeting as a senior leadership team, we talk about the impact on learning, the impact on student learning. If we're meeting with students, if we're meeting as a primary leadership team, in any kind of team work and thinking and collaboration, we always remind each other that whatever we're doing, why are we doing it? We're doing it because we want to improve student learning. And this is the PYP curriculum model, the learners at the center. So we see your children as being at the center of the learning, and we're always thinking about our ultimate goal, which is to improve student learning. Okay? So advantages and disadvantages, brainstorming what are the things that we feel this timetable has helped us do better. And we also tried to think of some disadvantages. You might think of others. But for us, really the two disadvantages that we found right now are, one, it's new and it is a 4-day cycle. The rest of the structure of our life is usually a 5-day cycle. If we work 5 days a week, sometimes it's a 6-day because we work on a Saturday. So it's a 4-day cycle, it's A, B, C, D. So that could be a bit confusing at the beginning. Trying to work out what is this Sunday, what is this Monday. Monday? What is this Tuesday? So that takes a bit of time at the beginning. But if you create some kind of organizational document for yourself, the teachers have done it, we've done it, I'm sure maybe at home you've also done it. The teachers should have shared with you a structure that tells you, okay, reminder, you know, today is day, what is today, by the way? A. Thank you, you already know, great. Today is day A. So those, I think for me, could be some of the disadvantages. Trying to map one kind of 4-day cycle on a 5-day cycle. And we need time to adapt to this. So things take time. And making a decision about this change, any change, at the beginning doesn't make sense really, because we need to try things out, right? We need to give ourselves time to get over those bumps of getting used to it, and then trying to understand, okay, what is it all about? In terms of advantages, this one where you can always just jump in. Joanne, I'd like to also introduce you to our Director of Learning, Analytics, and Innovation. So Joanne is also with us today. So, yeah, some of the advantages. Whole school consistency. So this is something that we've worked on from high school, middle school, and in primary school, trying to create a systematic, consistent approach to the timetable. So moving away from the 40-minute chunks into more extended time for learning, that is now taking place across the whole school. In terms of teacher placements, so as you know, we have teachers that teach across the school. We have language teachers that teach from PC1, they might be teaching grade 7, grade 12, and so on. We have also PE teachers that teach across the school. So what we've tried to do with this structure, because it's a 4-day cycle, we've tried to make sure that a teacher who is much more experienced at teaching, say, in the primary, to focus more, to teach more in the primary. A teacher that's more knowledgeable and more experienced in teaching high school to teach in the high school. And we haven't perfected it yet, but we are moving in the right direction. So this is our first year of really trying to do that, and we hope that next year, with our modifications, we will be able to do that more. So you won't have a teacher that teaches, for example, Arabic, that teaches EC2 and grade 7 and grade 10, for example. Uninterrupted deep learning for all students. I think Marwa can tell you a lot about early years. Can you let us know who is an early years parent? Who has children in the early years? And grades 1 to 3, anyone? Okay, and 4 and 5, grade 4 and 5? Okay, all right, so if we think about the kind of inquiry learning that we believe in terms of the best way for students to learn, this kind of timetable really helps us develop uninterrupted deep learning. So you're not like, oh, 25 minutes, now we've got to get up and walk to the next session. We've got to go to, in 40 minutes, everything has to be done in 40 minutes. Marwa, would you like to share something in terms of early years as well, in terms of that opportunity?
Well, actually, hi, good morning, everybody. What I'm about to share actually is true for all of primary.
That's right.
Our main focus is that in the primary, in the PYP especially, we are transdisciplinary. So although we have specialists who work with us, we also consider the homeroom teachers to be specialists and to collaborate with specialists. And so when a homeroom teacher is with the students, they're not just necessarily working with them on literacy, math, science, social studies, or anything of that sort. Sometimes they're probably doing PHE. Sometimes they're probably looking at the arts. Sometimes, so it's very transdisciplinary. You cannot segregate the content that the students are inquiring into in the PYP specifically. And so what this schedule does is it gives the children a longer stretch of uninterrupted time with the homeroom teacher, which provides the teacher with the opportunity to not just teach literacy and math as a specialist in literacy and math, but also to dive a little bit deeper into, okay, what does this look like when we're, moving our bodies in a certain way? Or what does it look like when we're, exploring art? Or what does it look like when we are being musicians, right? And so this is the main focus. The main purpose behind doing this is to give the homeroom teachers the opportunity to truly work with the children in this way, in a transdisciplinary way, where they can actually integrate as much of the real world into their teaching and learning with the students. So yeah, and reducing transition time is very big, especially in the early years, because it helps students settle. And as you may know, especially I can see many familiar faces who have young learners, these children take a little bit longer to dive deeper into inquiry and to begin to show their curiosities and ask their questions. And so when teachers have that time, the children have that time as well.
So yeah, so the length of time, because I know some parents have kind of shared their concern that, how can a 7-year-old sustain concentration and attention for that length of time? It's not about asking this child to focus on one thing for 60 minutes. It's about creating a lesson where the students have opportunity, in fact, to take their time and to go through a learning process that will include maybe the teacher explaining something, but will also include the opportunity for students to actually think about something, explore something, investigate something, ask questions, have their questions valued, and then try to find some answers and then reflect on their work. So if we think about inquiry as being our preferred form of teaching and learning, then having that time will provide students with the opportunity to be better inquirers. The teacher has to change the planning a little bit, definitely. I mean, as a homeroom teacher, we do that anyway. But as a single subject teacher, yes, I have 60 minutes with the students. I don't have 40 minutes. So I'm going to have to modify my plan, definitely. But that experience is going to be much more meaningful if the students don't have that, they have less transition time. They're not just coming into a lesson and then 20 minutes later, now you've got to go to the next lesson. In terms of the longer single subjects, it means also that the homeroom teachers during that time have a longer planning, right? So they're able to sit together for 60 minutes and do their lesson plans for the students instead of having 25 minutes. So coming in, rushing in and rushing out. Of course, homeroom teachers, they don't follow this, they cannot work on a very rigid schedule because they're working with young minds, right? Young students. So they don't, it's lesson is finished, I'm running out of the classroom. They're addressing the needs of every child. So having more time for prepping and planning is also really helpful for the teachers to create better planning. Also, the breaks, we have one break during the day that is longer than last year, and having those, it's a 50-minute if I'm not wrong. That actually also gives us an opportunity to create different kinds of, maybe it could be extracurricular activities, it could be social clubs and so on. So now we have this opportunity throughout the day to actually utilize that break for other things, that students might be interested in learning about or spending time doing. Less time wasted for single subject time, definitely. Personalized teaching. So the teachers will have more time to address the individual needs of the students in the classroom. And I think that, again, for in primary, that is really, that's going to help a lot in the single subjects. PhD, arts, languages. It allows for more group collaborative learning. You're providing different kinds of engagements that take longer, but are much more impactful. Using different methods of teaching, more homeroom time with students. So I've asked some homeroom teachers, how do you feel about this new timetable? Do you feel comfortable? And one of the comments was that we have more time with the students. We feel that we have more valuable time with the students. Anything else that you'd like to add? Marwa, Joanne?
Anyone? We've covered it all in regards to, the most important thing, ultimately, what do we all want? We want the students to spend more time with their teachers, right? And this is what the schedule does. It's kind of like tricking the clock. It's like, sometimes we say, I wish we can have more than 24 hours per day. This is kind of like doing that. And another thing that's extremely important is that this is not new. Like this whole cycle model, I don't know how many of you travel and have experienced other international schools. It is actually common in international schools to have a cyclical or a model that follows a cycle. I come from a school that follows a 6-day cycle. Other schools follow an 8-day cycle. Some follow a 2-day cycle. It really depends. It just buys more time. And when we say that, we're saying buying more time between the educator and the student, not literally buying more time, obviously.
Sorry, do you want questions at the beginning or at the end?
If it's relevant to what we're talking about.
So I guess I just wanted to ask, you've now mentioned that there was a school with a 6-day block cycle. Personally, I think a lot of us are fine with the longer blocks. As you said, by the time they get out the books, they get seated, they get started, 5 to 10 minutes are lost with that. I think the concern is the rotation of it, and so 2 questions. Was it considered having every day be Sunday, A, every B day be Monday, every D day be Wednesday, every E day or C day and E day be a specific day, and just rotate the Tuesday? First week of the month it's A, second week of the month it's B, third week of the month it's C, or a 5-day one. And the reason I'm asking that, I have 3 kids in 3 different grades. Now I've got library on A and C and D and PHE on B and C and C. And that part is confusing, trying to look at what day is it, what block day is it, what activity do we have that day. So were those other options considered? Was an A through E considered? Or was keeping more consistency of A being Sunday, B being Monday, and just rotating the Tuesday considered as you guys looked at this A through D schedule?
Yes, many models were considered, to be honest with you. And as you said initially, that we wanted to create consistency across the entire school. And so when we were looking at the option that best serves primary or middle school or high school, we were looking at, okay, what works best for primary, but also what makes sense to the entire school, especially for those teachers who teach across. And we also talk about the parents who have children across the different programs, obviously. Now, the confusing part, it's going to continue to be confusing. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be confusing until our children, or we work with our children to be able to check their seesaw, those who are older, to see, because the teachers are messaging either on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, letting them know what will this week look like. So helping our children, go to there to be able to organize themselves is one way we can do it. Or for the younger kids, I have a child in grade 1, for example, I'm doing that myself. So that part, it's going to be confusing. I agree with you, it is, but we'll work through it. The teachers are doing everything they can by trying to communicate on a weekly or a daily basis to support with that. But if the concern, because you're talking about the rotation, is how often children get library or PHE or whatever, that was definitely taken into consideration. And what we did was we looked at, okay, on the 5-day week, the one that we had last year, how many minutes of each did they have? And we made sure that that sustained itself within the cycle. So they didn't lose anything. As a matter of fact, they've gained a little bit because we realized now we have more time, so we can give them a little bit more PHE. We can give them a little bit more library. We can give them a little bit more homeroom. So that is what we did. These were the factors that we considered while we were making our considerations. But looking at AB, for example, and skipping Tuesday and then AB again, that would have been even more confusing to the children, because what you're doing here is you're bringing in 2 different models and saying this is what your week is going to look like. We rotate on 4 days and we keep the Tuesday. And that was actually one of the things that we were moving towards, because Tuesdays are shorter days. But when we looked at it, what it looks like on the grand screen, like when we moved back and we zoomed out and looked at it, it would have been even more confusing to the parents. And when we looked at other models, because it's common also in other schools to have shorter days, they didn't do that as well. Probably because of how confusing it would have been to, have one day in the middle of the week, quote unquote, middle of the week, where you skip your cycle. Your cycle just skips.
And looking at making it like A through E and having the shorter day be incorporated in Tuesday as its own day, that wasn't an option.
A couple things that if at all possible. So I used to be a primary head without getting too technical, there's a couple of things here. One is just a reminder that we're an EC through grade 12 school, so we're trying to hit the requirements of the PYP, the MYP, the DP, the Ministry of Education 3 subject requirements, all these factors that we incorporate in. We're trying to build an ECA and sports program that takes place before and after school. So any little thing that moves 5 minutes, it moves everything. Just to kind of, the other thing is often why you see when I mentioned that a 2-day, a 4-day, a 6-day, 8-day, 10-day, like an A week, B week, because even numbers mathematically help us with the blocking out and the scheduling. I don't want to get too technical, but that's just, you'll often see it. Nothing that we've done is novel. In fact, a lot of these are sort of cycle rotations. I shared an article with the leadership team from 1995. So it's like these have been around for a long time. And as a primary head, when we made those adjustments, I would point out the students get it first, the teachers get it next, the parents get it last. And often, sometimes the parents are, maybe some parents don't always get it.
Because they don't live it like the students do.
Right.
The students live the schedule.
Even the students correct the teachers when they get it wrong. They'll be the first ones to learn the schedule. And get, in fact, I heard it's not primary, but at the back to school night the other night, I heard a 10th grader said, at first I hated this schedule, now I love it. So they'll be the first endorsers of the schedule once they get into their routines. So I'm just, some of this is time, change takes time, it unsettles us, where there's a lot of changes going on in the school right now. But these are all changes, not just trivial changes made up just to change things. 2 years ago I came in, I had an entry plan. We went through an accreditation process last year. We went through a guiding statements review. We went through a strategic planning process that involved the community in various different ways. And people didn't ask, change the timetable to a 6-day schedule or 4-day schedule, or they didn't say split the middle in the high school. But the kinds of feedback they said, the strategies are being used to respond to the feedback that has been presented by the community. So it's just to kind of give a little bit of bigger picture thinking to it, and also just to reassure you from my own primary head experience that the kids get it, and they'll be the first ones. Yeah.
Thank you. So I think you're familiar with this kind of schedule. Probably teachers have shared with you what it would look like in terms of a 4-day cycle. But I think it's important for you also to know that the students are not missing out. They're not doing less of anything. In fact, they're probably doing more. So just some minutes. We work by minutes now. We don't work by periods. We work by minutes and blocks. And as you can see, students from EC1 to grade 5 are receiving lots of minutes in terms of arts, library, additional language teaching, and nothing has been reduced. It just looks different. It's distributed differently.
If you think about it, what fits in a 5-day week now fits in a 4-day week, but you're still in a 5-day week. So the minutes that used to fit on a 5-day went down to 4, but you have that 5th day that is rotating again.
That's right.
So that's how you gain time. Just to give you an idea of where the additional time came from. Whatever fit in a 5-day week went down to 4, and then you're still functioning on a 5-day week, so you're rotating. So those minutes are coming back, right? Every 5 days.
Can I ask you, how did you organize the Tuesdays as a short day? Because we have Tuesday ABCD in 1 month.
Mhm.
So the kids are using single
Reduced.
subjects?
So
How you?
they're reduced. The timing is reduced for each of those for that specific day. If it would be, yeah.
But
we're
that's
just
what it was
shortening.
always, 'cause
We've just shortened, which is what, yeah. which
it
is
was
what we
always
do.
a short
Yeah.
day Tuesday. So then, again, if you think about it, not to get very technical, go back to whenever you feel that, oh my God, what's happening, Tuesdays are short day, are they using specialists? The answer is no, because 1, we always had a short Tuesday. 2, we used the minutes. So whatever minutes they got, even on the shorter Tuesdays in a 5-day week, we made sure it was there, but they still have that 5th day coming back in. So they didn't lose any single minute, they gained minutes.
Yeah.
Just if whenever you feel anxious about them losing, just remember that the minutes, we follow the minutes, right?
I have a small question because I have experience in grade 2. Some kids are saying that Tuesdays is very tough. It's no longer a short day. That it's a normal schedule that is being squeezed in. All the subjects are being squeezed in on a short day. And some kids were saying, like, complaining it's no longer a short day. They're being like pressured on doing a lot of subjects where it's a small period of time. Did you check?
The periods are shortened,
Yeah.
right? They're less, students spend less time in the different things. That's true, and that has to do with us adapting, right? The teachers adapting, making sure that the lessons aren't, that they are meaningful within those short periods of time.
Actually, what the students are experiencing on Tuesdays is very interesting that you bring this up. What they're experiencing is the discomfort of transitions, which is what we had before. This is exactly, because now they've had this time where they go to PhD, they have 60 minutes instead of just 40. They're with their homeroom teacher for 120 minutes instead of 80, for example. And so suddenly Tuesday's thrown in and they're back to those transitions, right? So this is exactly what is bothering the children. Now it is tough. Transitions are difficult, and this is one of the reasons why we moved to this, to reduce those transitions. But Tuesdays, because we don't want them to miss any single subject and we don't want to reduce any of those minutes, it's the same day, but the transitions now they went, so they're transitioning into their day at a much faster pace.
That's right.
That's
I
what's
think
happening.
good feedback though, you have to remember too, just like this is new for students and parents, it's also new for the majority of our teachers
That's
here.
right.
So I think those are things that the primary team with their teachers and the grade level leaders, they can come up with solutions for that. Like already as a former primary head, if I'm thinking as a primary homeroom teacher, rather than go through all the subjects of the day, yeah, you have your specialists that you would have those shorter blocks, but I'm a homeroom teacher. I'm just gonna rotate. Maybe this Tuesday I'm doing deep math, the next Tuesday I'm doing deep unit of inquiry, the next Tuesday maybe I'm doing deep literacy.
To reduce transitions.
So I don't have to do literacy, math, and unit of inquiry all in one day in a homeroom. So we can take that feedback, and in fact, I think I've even heard teacher feedback like that, and we will tinker with it and make it better over time.
Yes. Okay, I think you're familiar. If you've received the timetable of your child, you've seen what it would look like. It's just an example in terms of what a 4-day cycle looks like, in terms of the distribution, homeroom time, with the single subjects. Yeah.
All the pink is when the children are with the teacher. All that beautiful pink. With their homeroom teacher.
Yeah. And I know you can't see this very clearly, but this is like an example of a grade 4 timetable as well. I think you've already received something like that from the homeroom teachers, so you're familiar with what they look like. Okay. So as Sean mentioned, and Marwa, that this is not a new approach to timetabling in a school. And if you were to research, if you were to go to Google or AI and look up, 4-day schedules, 6-day schedules, and so on, you'll find a lot of research that talks about it and talks about the pros and the cons. And this is just a quote from one of those articles that I have access to. It says that block scheduling is a preferred teaching method because it helps both teachers and students have a healthy relationship while facilitating improved student growth. And that, for me, I think is the big idea of why we feel that the 4-day cycle is a good option for us to pursue. Okay. That's it. If you have any questions or comments.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
You said that the times didn't change for what was allocated, but at the primary night, one of the presentations we sat through said that there was more time being allocated to Islamic studies per the Ministry of Education. So I just wanted to ask, was more time allocated to that, dictated by the ministry? And if so, where was time taken to accommodate that? and then depending on that, I sat through some meetings with the ministry at the school last spring, and the feedback that the Arabic parents gave was that the Islamic studies curriculum was not very effective, that they didn't feel like it was being implemented well, that a newer, more updated curriculum was being looked at. So if the ministry added more time for Islamic studies, is that an incorrect solution to a different problem with curriculum?
There are Ministry of Education requirements, and it's our responsibility to adhere to those. And when there are new requirements, it's our responsibility to adhere to those. So that's a situation that I think every school in Qatar.
So was more time being dictated to allocate to that?
The requirement is 2 hours of Islamic studies per week.
And did that
we-
increase
we
from
were-
last year?
We were previously not compliant fully. We had 2 40-minute periods, so if we stayed on that 40-minute period schedule, we would have added a third period in. So again, that's one factor in looking at the Ministry of Education requirements to have to be able to be fully compliant. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all guests of Qatar, and we have to be compliant with the laws and regulations of the country out of respect to our host country. So that's what we're trying to do is make sure that we're fully compliant with our host country, with PYP, MYP, DP requirements, plus all the other things that we like to put into a school based on the feedback of the community. Of course, things are always a trade-off, right? You do one thing, it has advantages and disadvantages, but really in terms of the other things we're doing, we're looking at, even this is the first iteration of this. We will not do a crazy like rescheduling. Like next year, you're not going to all of a sudden see we're on an 8-day schedule. We'll still be on a 4-day schedule, but we'll do some refinements and some tinkering with the timetables to continue to make it better, to continue to meet all the requirements that we need to for our various considerations. So I promise no major radical scheduling changes, but we will refine it and make it better. And in some of that, even like when we do the Islamic studies, we're looking at different things that we can do for the non-Islamic studies students.
No, the question was just if it was because of something else, but it's not. It was because we weren't meeting a requirement, and yeah, I have no problem with that.
The primary, the timing of Islamic has not changed.
Okay.
In terms of improving the teaching practices and the learning practices, that's something that we're always working on. I don't think they're actually connected in terms of like the timing and other students that don't do Islamic studies, of course, do take student well-being or Arabic as Arabic language and culture. And so the increase of those is also going to be beneficial for students as well. So, and I think the change is 10 minutes at the moment. So
And for our families right now, we're building towards it. You currently are Islamic studies students who are studying in a language other than Arabic. Right now, they're only getting a sort of a minimal option after school. We'll be building that into the curriculum or into the school day. So anybody in here that's a Muslim family that has a non-Arabic speaking background, we will be building that into the school day in the very near future, so that everybody meets the requirements.
you know, we're a unique school in the sense that we want to provide as many mother tongue languages as we can to promote identity of the family and the community that we have. So our timetable is a lot more complex than other schools because we want to cater to the mother tongue, the language acquisition, also of course adhering to the Ministry of Education requirements, providing Islamic studies in English, Qatar history, and so on. So yeah, so that's it's quite an intricate thing to put together. We're just an email away. If you have any questions, if you think of them later, any comments, any thoughts, suggestions, you can always reach out to us. We're in the school, and you can reach us through email. So, we can continue the conversation if you have any other ideas. Yes, hi.
Small suggestion.
Yes.
This year you're already we are facing like problems with kids, like getting like my example, like Arabic, having 2 hours a day is hectic for them. And now each time like, oh my god, I have to do Arabic for 2 hours. It's not like last year we used to have it like every day, and one day they used to have it a 2-hour session. I don't know how, maybe, okay, they're having the pros, like having more PE, more library and stuff, but I think the cons is like affecting the mother tongue.
So, as Sean said, that is one thing that we have an eye on for next year, and I think you're talking about grade two specifically. So we do have eye on that. However, what we did do this year, to be able to support the feedback that we got regarding the 80 minutes from last year, is we have a break in between the 2 hours, right? And so the way we did it and the way we've worked with the teachers is we've told them that before break, they give their lesson and they do their hands-on exercises or drills or whatever it is that they need to do. Children go off on a break, and then when they come back, they work on a hands-on engagement that is related to what they learned, so that the teaching methods used are not exactly the same. So what happened last year was it was 80 minutes of mini lesson, engagement, feedback, sometimes assessment as well. Right now it's gonna look a little bit different for the children, and it's broken up with a grade. So it's 40 minutes break, 30 minutes.
And what that enables us to do as well is to have that sort of more homeroom model with the languages as well. So but this is of course different for the teachers. They haven't had that opportunity before. So again, it's that period of making those changes. But they'll be able to do those sort of that little bit more personalised learning, because maybe they'll be able to work in centres, and then they'll be able to work with one group and really look at the different levels of languages in the class and have different activities. Whereas when you have a shorter period of time, it is much more difficult to cater to everyone's needs. But if you have a longer block of time, you can chunk that time and do a mini lesson at this level, and have those children work independently, and then another mini lesson at this level. So having those longer breaks gives us more opportunity for better teaching practice. But again, that's a change for our teachers and an adjustment, and now they're starting to be able to embrace that and look at new ways of doing things.
And one way we tried to support the teachers who have this block is we tried not to give them break duties when they have that time, so that during the break they actually have time to set up for either centers or whatever it is that they need to do with the children. So we've tried to accommodate, to support the teachers in making this shift, because you see it in the homeroom, right? You see this kind of learning in the homeroom.
Yes.
The feedback that we used to get from the mother tongue teachers was, we don't have enough time, we have them for 40 minutes. I mean, setting up alone is gonna take me 10 minutes, and my classes are back to back, da 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 da. So we're trying to, first of all, give them some, where possible, transition time before and after their lessons, so that they can do whatever it is that they need to prepare. And then in grade 2, in this case, giving them the break that breaks up their block with the children. I mean, obviously, this is something that we have eye on. We'll reflect on it with you, with the students, with the teachers, make changes if necessary, but it's definitely better than last year. So that I can assure you that, because it's not 80 minutes to one goal with the kids.
Thank you so much for coming today. It was great to see you, and we'll see you again soon.